Hi, welcome to the THC show. I'm Neil Magnuson, your host. This is the show where we talk about the truths in the world. Some of them are a little bit disturbing, so we look for some hope and some ways to change things. On the show today, we're going to once again attempt to have 8 out of 10 Glenn join us for the 420 session from the road. I believe he's in Winnipeg today, and hopefully we can make that work a little better than we did last week. That was a bit of a stoner session, and that's, I guess, what that's supposed to be. Jerry Martin will also be on the show coming up this week, as always, to talk about the pursuit of medical cannabis rights. And Robert Stafford will be my guest today. He's been a long-time contributor to the Cannabis Substitution Program, and he's going to tell us a bit about why he came to be that type of human being. So yesterday was Overdose Awareness Day, and it was a very somber day for people, especially in this neighborhood where so many people have been lost to the overdose crisis. But it's not just from this neighborhood. The deaths from opioids and the tainted drug supply really reach over every demographic within our communities here. We've had about 6,000 deaths since 2016 that are attributed to the poison drug supply. And this is the third month in a row where the numbers have been over 170. Since January to May, there was a 93% increase in the number of Indigenous people that were lost to the overdose crisis, and that's about 5 times the number of non-Indigenous people. This has been a war against people for a long time. This is all driven by the war on drugs. This has only got legs because the governments continue to decide on the pretense of protecting people from dangerous drugs, that really what they're doing is protecting the interests of other drug sellers. And it's a horrible blight on our society and on our world, and at this time in history, that there would be such a thing. These laws are not protecting people. They were never put in place to protect people, other than the people who want to make a whole bunch of money exploiting the masses of people with the different drugs that they could sell. And that's just what it's all about. These laws don't stop anybody from partaking in illegal drugs. In fact, they drive people to take illegal drugs. They purposely do that, and there's a lot of groups that are profiting from that. And in the case of what's happening with the overdose pandemic, or epidemic, sorry, it's not a pandemic, is that they're murdering people, and people are dying in large numbers just to satisfy greed and corruption. And it's really a shame. What they continue to clamor for, and what of course would be the answer, is a safe supply of drugs. That when people want some sort of drug for whatever reason they might want it for, as adults, that's their business and nobody's business but theirs, that they should be able to go and get what they want, and it shouldn't be so difficult that they have to go to find some guy that's got it behind a trench coat in a back alley somewhere behind a dumpster. This whole idea that the government can tell people that they can't do drugs and then people just won't do those drugs is living in some sort of a fairy tale, because that's not what happens. People become upset because their freedoms have been infringed upon. They don't trust or believe in governments, and in many cases the whole idea of trying to prohibit substances drives people to do them even more, especially those people that are by nature rebellious, and those people that are young people and just trying to figure things out. These prohibition laws are extremely unfair to people that are rebellious, because as soon as governments or authorities start telling people who are rebellious, and I certainly fall into that category throughout most of my life, especially in my early life, that it makes people do what they otherwise wouldn't do. And we've got people that are purposely even harming themselves or allowing themselves to be harmed by the misuse of drugs, simply to say fuck you to the government who says they can't use them at all. It's really a nasty situation, and all of it's driven by prohibition. So they keep clamoring for a safe supply, but unfortunately our government officials seem to have they're either blind to the truth or they've been corrupted by money. I wonder which one of those might be true. But the whole safe supply is being driven by pharmaceutical companies to provide their solution in other alternative opioids to people that are already addicted to opioids. And none of it is about a cure. None of it is about getting people off of harmful substances and substances that they shouldn't be using on a daily basis. all of it is just driven by wanting to sell their drugs and protect their interests. So the safe supply that they're talking about from pharmaceutical companies is not what the people on the street are demanding. It's not what they're used to using. It's not what they want to use, and it's not the right answer for them. The right answer is to give them what they want, of course, to have it dispensed by professionals who can properly advise people as to the dynamics of what it is that they're wanting to be involved with, and they can tell them about the proper dosaging, and they can keep an eye on them and monitor them as far as how it's going, if they want that to be the case. And there's been absolutely zero attention to what should be a definite alternative and option for people, which is cannabis, especially in the form of high-dose edibles and concentrates. The cannabis high-dose edibles can be very effective for many people in going through withdrawal and in getting off of the drugs that they're on and using high-dose edibles and concentrates to deal with the issues that they were using the other drugs for. I mean, the vast majority of people are not just addicted to drugs. The vast majority of people who are considered to be drug addicts are using it to compensate for a lot of pain that they're in from a lot of different things that have happened. Usually it's trauma-driven, be it emotional trauma or physical trauma. People injured on job sites that are put onto opiates that then get cut off of those opiates before they can, or not weaned off properly, and they end up going to their family's medicine cabinets and ending up going to friends and then end up going to the streets. The whole idea of these pharmaceuticals is what's caused the problem in the first place. People need to have options of using cannabis. And so, as those who've been watching the show before will know and recognize, this is not our usual Pot TV studio set. This is where we've been broadcasting from for the last couple of months. And this is a medical cannabis dispensary called the Healing Wave. They're in a collaboration with the Cannabis Substitution Program that I started 3.5 years ago and have been running ever since. And we've moved into not just our own initiative at all. Certainly the Cannabis Substitution Program was the initiative of myself and the other volunteers that came along to help us with what we were doing there. But this idea of low barrier access through a dispensary is actually the creation of one of the city councillors, Rebecca Bly. Vancouver City Councillor Rebecca Bly put forward a motion a little over a year ago now, and it was passed unanimously June 26th of 2019. And that was to allow for low barrier access to cannabis to address the overdose crisis. We went and met with Rebecca about a month after that motion passed, myself and Jody Emery and a member of the Green Cross and a representative from Van Du's board, and had a good discussion about what that might mean, what low barrier access would mean. And so that we left there with an understanding that we would move our program indoors as soon as we had members here, that we would also have it available to people that could afford it, because the Cannabis Substitution Program is designed to help people who can't afford cannabis, so that people who could afford it could get it without having to show ID, without having to go through all the different hoops that are impeding people's access to cannabis at the government to cannabis stores. So we put together a low barrier access dispensary. We have a full range of all the different cannabis products that people could want, from topicals to suppositories to flowers to concentrates and to edibles, be in conjunction with the compassionate suppliers, along with a business model that we can put together here that means that we can have a sustainable business if we have enough volume, and that this business can support the Cannabis Substitution Program and allow it to continue to exist and thrive. And we ran into a little barrier ourselves in trying to do this in the first place, because we couldn't find a landlord to rent to us. So the government had thrown up a barrier to us because they had threatened landlords across the country with the forfeiture of their property and other fines that would be involved if they were to rent their property to an illegal cannabis business. So it took us about a year to find a landlord who, on consultation, was willing to allow us to do this, hopefully because the city is going to allow it and is going to license us to be here, but there was some skepticism about whether or not that was going to happen and whether or not we would be continue to be welcomed here by our landlord. So we got the landlord, we found a space. I had been informing the councillor all the way along about our journey to find the space, and notifying her that we're here, we got a storefront, we're moving indoors, we're going to open up our low barrier access dispensary, please come and visit us. We didn't get a visit from that councillor. What we got, not directed by the councillor, I want to throw in here, but just because we were a business that had popped up, licensing branch in Vancouver became aware of that, had sent a representative here who said you're not licensed by the city at $30,000 and you're going to have to probably close down. And, I explained to her that we had this understanding and that we were responding to the city council's motion, and that you know, they were going to come and assess what we were doing, and if we qualified in the way that they expected us to, that they would license us. While licensing department was not in touch with the councillor's motion, they was not aware of that. That prompted me to make a whole bunch of phone calls to different ministers' offices and people that might be able to help us, and that got the councillor to call me. And so the next day I talked to the councillor, and she was very happy that we had responded to her motion. We're the only group that has. We've done it in ways that so far as she understands, is right along the lines of what she was looking for. And so she was unaware of licensing's decision, and she was unaware of who was the manager of the licensing department, so it seems one level of government doesn't really know what's going on with other levels of government. I guess that's not a shocker. And so she got to work, and I believe behind the scenes a bunch of other people went to work, and especially including John Conroy, who stepped up to try to lead the charge in making all of this work for us. And so the deadline to cease and desist came and went. And although in talking with Rebecca Bly, the councillor, it seemed that you know, her intention was that we'd be able to continue doing this and then get a license to do it, but that she was have a letter constructed, or even an email constructed, to be sent to our landlord to state in there that they were going to allow us to continue here, because the city has made a choice to follow Canada's lead with the Cannabis Act and with the Cannabis File. And so, well, here we are now with John working with the federal government, with the provincial government, with the city hall to try to get us that license. The biggest and most pressing problem was the landlord, and I did announce on the show here last week that the councillor had agreed in an email to me that at the very least she would be sending an email to the landlord telling him that we can continue here and he's not to worry. However, that letter and email did not get sent. Instead, what happened is yesterday morning on Overdose Awareness Day, I got a letter from the city explaining that upon looking into it, although city staff had not reported back to the councillor in over a year about how it was that they would be able to support us and license us in what we're doing here, but having been prompted to do so because we found a spot and opened it, that city staff had conversations with senior levels of government, and it was relayed to them that the provincial government was not going to exempt anything for us, and it wasn't really in their jurisdiction, and that the federal government had decided when they constructed the Cannabis Act that they wouldn't be revisiting it to do any changing of it for 5 years. So it's not going to be till 2023 that they're even going to be willing to look at anything to do with changing things or allowing us to do this. And so that was kind of the word from city staff to the councillor, and that prompted the council to send us that letter. And the bottom line of the letter in the last paragraph says, we just don't think there's any path for you to be able to achieve your goal of being able to continue, but that at this time there's no enforcement action planned as far as she knows, and that she's going to keep an eye on that and let us know if that changes in the meantime. But still, our landlord hasn't got any assurance from the city. Today I got another letter from our landlord stating his intention to evict us, and that you know, he's really hoping that we can get our lawyer to talk to his lawyer, to talk to the city, to talk to everybody that needs to be talked to, and get this worked out, because he doesn't want us to stop doing this, and he doesn't want to have to kick us out, but he believes that he's obliged to do so because of the letter that he initially received from licensing, and that hasn't changed because he hasn't heard anything from City Hall. But you know, even more than that is the frustration that I've been showing in previous programs talking about this, that we're having to overcome the obstacles being put up for us by our federal public servants and our provincial public servants and our municipal public servants. And in their mind, we should just stop doing what we're doing until they figure out, maybe by 2023, that they can change things enough to allow us to save the lives of people with this product that's safer than anything else that's in the marketplace. They think we should stop. They told that to the Green Cross too. They told the Green Cross, just close your doors and apply and wait. And so they paid their rent for almost a year to get told no and go away. And I'm not going to do that. That's not the right thing to do. This whole thing just reeks of corruption. It just reeks of immorality. I mean, we're committing a crime apparently here by not using Trudeau's weed. So because we are getting our weed from Trudeau's licensed producers, that this is some sort of a horrific crime. It is such a crime that it's going to override the immense value that we're doing here for these disenfranchised people that have had their backs turned on them by our governments and have murdered them with their policies of restricting access to cannabis in the first place, and they think it's okay to continue murdering people by shutting us down and sending the people that we're helping back to the poison drug supply. I couldn't be more appalled. I couldn't be more appalled that this would happen on Overdose Awareness Day. That some bureaucrat, some public servant, had the audacity to sit down at a computer and type out the words that they sent us. Sorry, but you can't be saving people's lives because you're in contradiction of some federal laws that are there to protect the financial interests of those insiders that are dealing and selling for Trudeau and his cartel. 419 moment. If you got him, light him. If you got him illegally, feel proud of yourself. Good people break bad laws, and these are some very bad laws. And it is getting more and more plain and clear to anybody that wants to see it, that our government is involved in high level of corruption at the highest office of the land. Trudeau and his cartel and these enforcers of his protection racket for their monopoly of improperly produced corrupt weed is one of the biggest blights on the Canadian landscape in all of the history of our country, other than probably the systemic racism that's gone on against our Indigenous brothers and sisters since the beginning. Our governments should be ashamed of themselves. Our governments need to be exposed and they need to be replaced. We need to fundamentally sit down and think about what it is that free people should have for themselves in the way of public servants and governance of our needs in this society. Not governance of our behaviors unless we're harming other people, but governance of our needs. We need public servants. We have things we need to have a civilized society, and we should sit down and think about what that is. Because right now it has been so badly corrupted after years and decades of more and more corrupt public servants being bribed and threatened by corrupt corporations and kingdomships and whoever else is pulling the strings here, the trillionaires, you know, the people that really think they own our asses. Well, anyway, it's 420. And man, I'll tell you, if you think about it, it's very stressful. Thank God we can smoke a little reefer and relax. So the 420 session, let's see. Hi, Jen.
Hi,
I think I'm going to bring you in here. How are we doing with Glenn?
Let's get him to unmute. We'll see if we can get him on.
All right.
Looks like he's there. He's got a guest.
Glenn Wells is there. He's bringing on a special guest for us. That's awesome. And I'm bringing on my own little special guest here, Jen Nelson from the dispensary and Cannabis Substitution Project is going to come and share a spliff with us.
Yes, I am.
We're sharing Karens, not Karens here, by the way. Until there's some significant change in how things are going in British Columbia. We feel bad about all those people in the rest of the world that are suffering with this other pandemic that is so devastating. Here in British Columbia, although our public servants here are still not really telling us the truth about things, and they're still causing people to be more scared than they need to, yeah, we don't really have the issue for too much concern until they discover some sort of an outbreak in some of our local communities that we would need to be concerned about. How do you guys are?
I'm good.
Happy 420.
Happy 420. Oh, it's always 420 here.
Yes, we have a clock on the wall to prove that. If you come to our shop, you'll see that it's always 420 here.
Big man there.
All right. You got Glenn there too? Can we hear him?
Hey! How's it going? Happy 420. 420.
I can hear you a little bit.
Oh, that's good. I can hear you.
I can see you, but I don't think that's a good television shot. Just pretend you're on the radio here. Jen and I are
Okay, all right. Well, I got Dave, and I got Ron, and I got Vince here.
So you got a guest with you?
I got a few guests, yeah. And Vince, he's photography, so we talked to Vince about funny stuff he's seen at CannaFest.
Nice. So
Yeah.
Tell us who they are.
My name is Vince, camera operator and drone operator here in Winnipeg.
And I got Ron the grower and Dave. There's Ron. And Dave is actually here. Look at that.
There's Dave.
Over here, Dave. There.
Oh, there's a camera.
There's Dave.
That's right.
So Dave is actually here today.
That's the whole point of 420.
Yeah, this is how we do 420 in Winnipeg, I guess.
At 420, you just set aside all that shit that you're worried about, and you just smoke a joint and think about good things. That's what we do.
Hey, and I got a lucky clover from Pat Fortin in Moonbeam, Ontario, and I've been rubbing it for the Canucks tonight.
All right.
Yes.
So, when do you do home?
I will be home on Saturday. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to get the Doug and Michelle's wedding, but I just tried to make a reservation on the ferry, and they're all booked up.
So, maybe, hopefully, when you get back, we'll still be able to watch a hockey game here together.
I'm hoping so. I'm really. I got my sweater on. I see you got yours.
I know you don't have your jersey with you, but I'm putting mine on.
All right, you do that.
What are you worried about?
Hey, Jen, you're looking good.
There we go. Go Canucks.
Yay!
They're gonna win
Go
tonight.
Canucks!
If they don't win tonight, they don't deserve it.
Yes, I know, and they are going to win tonight. They're not going to. They are going to win.
They're going to win tonight. They almost.
I'll be here, right here, right in front of this TV, watching the game.
I sent you to bed last time. We were up a goal. I said, "Don't worry, we got this." And then did you wake up and find out what happened?
Yeah, 5-3, we lost.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
I'm not predicting anything anymore.
We're not perfect, right?
Yeah. If I predict something, don't bet on it and then blame me for it.
Okay, I didn't. I just bet. I just was like trying to keep my eyes open. Neil said to stay awake. And they were winning. I was like, okay. Then he said, okay, go to sleep. But now it's a little bit better because it's 8:45 here tonight since I've gone into Manitoba.
Well, I said we were sharing with our parents, so I thought we should probably
Yeah. Are you giving Jen a hard time, Neil?
We would not have done that.
You didn't argue that. Are you giving Jen a hard time?
What's going on?
I said, are you giving Jen a hard time? Yeah, I know, it's hard to hear.
What are you asking me?
Don't worry about it. We're talking to Jen.
Talking to me?
Talking to you. Of course you are.
Yeah, are you giving Neil a hard time?
Always.
Always.
Always. There you go. Well, I'll definitely be back next Tuesday's show, so I'll be at the store. I'm gonna see Pat Warnick tomorrow, and we'll have some video from the bread stores. All right.
Say hi to Pat for me.
I will.
I think you and I are fighting similar fights here from a little different angles, and I really think we can coordinate a little bit about what we're doing.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll give you a personal messenger call tomorrow when I'm with him, and you guys can talk. Yeah, all right, no problem.
We know what we're doing.
Oh yeah, well, I didn't think you would not know what you were doing.
I think you know what
all right, all right. So we'll see you next Tuesday in the store.
Say what?
See you next Tuesday.
Wait, you trying to get out of here early or something? We're not done.
I don't know. I don't know. You got Jen there. She's better looking than me.
Oh, well, you know.
I don't know.
I'm not willing to cut this segment short. It's an important segment.
Yes, it is very important. I'm here. I just thought that maybe you were going to talk to Jen for a little while. I didn't want to be a hog.
This is the pineapple music.
Oh, well, we're smoking pink beard and pink beard rosin. And
now we got a truck. I don't know if you can hear me real good, Glenn, but we got a truck behind me and I can't hear you at all. And
You can't hear you.
when the truck's not there, you know, I'm definitely audio challenged here. It's me, you know.
Well, I'll be back next week, so you'll be able to hear me.
We'll be back on Saturday.
Yes.
We'll be moving on to the next round right about that time, probably.
Yes, we will.
I hope so. Well,
I
we'll
really
still be
do.
playing Vegas.
Yeah, well, and no matter what, I'll still be there on Tuesday.
That's good. All right. We're getting close to 4:30. I'm still not willing to cut the session short.
Well, then I'm not willing to cut it short either.
Keep it going.
Yeah, keep it going. We're good here.
The joint's not even done yet.
No.
We're not even close to done, bro.
Close to done. No, there we go. There we go. We're going to take the sweater off. We're going to stay for a while.
We're doing rosin in
the
the pipe.
restaurant where we watch the hockey game.
Yes.
During the intermission, we get to smoke one joint. We smoke it right
Yes.
down, and then it's time for the next period. It works very well.
It works though. I really appreciate it's Dave, isn't it?
So cannabis can replace clocks, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a good way to spend the intermission.
It's a miracle plant. It's a total miracle plant. You can live your life by it.
Yeah.
It'll provide. It's like the buffalo was to the natives back in the day.
It was something that we definitely needed. Yes.
You can make your tent out of it, you know. You can make your tent out of it. You can start your fire with it. You can eat it, and then you can smoke it.
You can make a brick out of it and build a home.
Well, you can see
Hold on, can I make a shameless plug here?
Yeah.
Look for the wakenbakery.ca in the next 60 days.
You gotta squeeze the oil out of it. That's
Wakenbakery.ca.
where a lot of people fail trying to use it as a lube. They just, you know, the leaves don't work. You gotta squeeze the oil out of it first.
Hey, our guest Vince says that he's going to be doing the wicked.
We're not serious for the whole show. This is a proper 420 session.
Waken Bakery.
Besides, we work in a pot shop.
Okay.
Sex goes well with everything, and marijuana goes well with everything.
Hey, Neil.
The only other thing that comes close to that is chocolate. Music and chocolate and cannabis. Just keep adding to
Sunshine.
We're going for sensory overload, holding kittens while we watch a sunset.
Oh,
Yeah.
so don't forget shrooms then.
No,
And,
shrooms. No, shrooms clouds my marijuana experience. So I know some people like them.
hey, Neil.
Yeah.
Vince is going to be doing the Waken Bakery, which is edibles and infused coffees and teas.
Okay, I think I heard that. Good things. Thanks, Vince.
So it's the wakenbakery.ca.
Yeah, we really appreciate all the help we can get here. This is a monumental task to be able to contribute what needs to happen in this community here. So I really do appreciate all the people that help us.
Yeah.
So how are we doing? I think it's 4:30 now.
It's 4:31.
What are we doing here?
Still going.
We're still going.
All right. Well,
Go Canucks!
all right. We'll see you soon. And you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Have
What?
as much fun as you can.
All right.
All right.
And then I stop in Whitewood.
Say hi to all the people in Winnipeg for us.
And I'll say hi to people in Whitewood.
Condolences, because they're there and we're here.
Weird.
All right, go back to work. What are you still doing?
Oh.
I just don't want to just sit there. You don't have to say anything. You don't. I mean, when you say things, it's good too. But just sitting there is good. Smoking a joint, sitting there. We increased our viewership by about 30% just because they were calling their friends going, hey, Jen's on the show. They don't need you to hear you
Sitting in
sing.
the corner smoking a joint.
Oh, you're not getting in the corner. Well, yeah. Okay, you're in the corner. All right, now you're cutting into Jerry's time. So, away you go. Have fun.
Away you
Get to
go.
work.
Be gone with you.
There's people that need you. Get to work.
Good,
All
Jerry.
right. So, hey, Jerry, come on in. I was going to introduce you first. Now you got to sit there beside me while I introduce you. Because I always like to introduce Jerry. This is the Martin Medical Moment, and it's actually a 15-minute moment where we talk about the pursuit of rights with respect to medical storefronts. And no better a person to talk to than Jerry, because Jerry was right in the trenches with that whole movement to have medical dispensaries back in Whitewood, Saskatchewan. He had a dispensary there. It's a town of about 1,000 people. I mean, they had problems with their young people with meth and other substances. They had a lot of people that were in a lot of pain that were, really, really benefiting from being able to access cannabis from Jerry. So Jerry opened his dispensary, well, probably going on 8 years ago now. He ran it for about 4 years there. And during that time is when there was a lot of dispensaries across Canada, and we were kind of pushing the issue. And so that the government had then been formed by Justin Trudeau with a majority government after coming from third-party status, running on a platform of legalizing cannabis. I mean, that is the most unheard of thing for activists that we could never even imagine that a government would even mention legalizing cannabis in their platform at all, let alone run on legalization for everybody. And then go from third-party status to a majority government. So that was huge, and Justin said that the medical access would not be a problem, that people would be able to get what they needed for their medical needs, but instead they set up, and by their own definition, and they repeat it over and over again, they are non-medical government stores. And all of the medical stores that had access for people to come to get things if they needed it through a storefront, all of those were systematically disassembled by different police forces across Canada, with money supplied to them as a result of taxes being collected through the government stores. And Jerry was one of those victims. They threatened him to cease and desist, but you can't do that. Who could do that? We can't do that. Nobody could do that. Because if you can't, put your feet in the shoes of a dispensary owner, especially a medical dispensary owner. I know you're just sitting there like Jen, but I mean, I gotta explain this, I gotta explain this as best I can. As a dispensary owner, even the dispensary owners that might just get into the business because they want to sell cannabis and make money, and it's just like a thing you can do, but that's rare because you're risking a lot by doing that with the laws the way that they work. But people that are running medical dispensaries especially, and in Jerry's case, he ran a strict medical dispensary using all the protocols designed by Philippe Lucas and Riel Kapler back in the Vancouver Compassion Club days. And still, you become very connected to the people that you're helping. You can't help but become involved emotionally with the people that you're helping. They want to tell you every time they come in how much they value your services, and you cannot. It's just impossible. I don't understand how any government public servant could possibly fathom that a dispensary owner, a medical dispensary owner, could just close their doors and be okay with that. It's impossible. You can't do it. You got to help the people that are coming to you and are going to be in tears if you can't help them. Any ethical feeling human being would then continue somehow to help these people, illegal or not. And so Jerry kept his dispensary open till the last moment when the RCMP showed up and put him in handcuffs. And now it's been a 4-year journey, still no day in court, of being persecuted and oppressed by this system of so-called justice. And where are we at now, Jerry? Where are you at? 4 years in?
Almost 4 years. 4 years in November, yeah.
And how many appearances in court?
Over 40.
Over 40 appearances in court. Part of that due to yourself with changing lawyers and stuff like that. and part of it due to COVID now,
Yeah.
and part of it due to the Crown, now the second Crown that's
Yeah.
got your file.
New one, yeah.
And so any movement on a court date?
No
No,
court
no.
date. Like I said last week, they
Last
just
week you
adjust-
got your stuff back.
Well, they're going to adjust my bail conditions. They
Going
haven't done,
to?
They haven't done it yet.
Haven't done it yet.
It's a process.
Well, just like us. Last
Yeah.
week I announced that we were good to go with our landlord because the counselor was going to contact the landlord. She said she would do that. And so I went, yay! So let's not go, yay, yet
Yeah.
for you either, because you can't trust these people, and who knows. But you got an agreement. They're going to give you your passport. I love the one where they told you you no longer have to be of good behavior.
That's it, yeah, they don't
And keep the peace.
And be of good behavior anymore. Yeah, I called them this morning. I had to check in for bail.
Yeah.
They're all, hey, Jerry. They don't know me by name. By
Of
now.
course. Of course.
Yeah.
You're part of the percentage of reasons they get their paycheck.
Yeah.
You know?
4 years.
Same with those prosecutors. I often wonder how big is the file and how much money did the prosecutors get paid, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, is that in the Freedom of Information, or would they, blank that out if you ever...
I don't know. It's a good question because I'd like to know how much they spent. They don't seem to care, though. It's our money, not their
They
money.
don't seem to care at all.
Yeah.
In the end, they're looking for, according to them, still some sort of jail time.
Yeah.
They
Big fine.
seized. Do you have a dollar figure on how much of your property they seized from you?
Well, between properties and the bank accounts
And the cars?
and cars and all that, it was, and then the lawyer's fees on top of
Oh
that.
man, now we're gonna add the lawyer's fees.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around like 850,000 or something.
Holy
it was
smokes.
650 minus the lawyer. I think it was about 660, and then lawyer's fees 120.
And
some 780, but 780 somewhere. It was a lot.
And some of those lawyers' fees you've managed to raise through some fundraising, but
Yeah.
a lot of that has come out of your own efforts and your own pocket, and liquidating things that you had to pay for all of that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, it's cost you about that much already.
Yeah.
More to come, probably at least more to come in some ways.
Well,
What does it cost us? Like us taxpayers.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
what does it
sure.
cost us for the initial investigation?
Yeah.
Whatever Health Canada billed for your file, the police to intervene and seize all your stuff. I bet you there's a bill attached to every one of those.
Oh yeah.
Every time they sell one of your cars, there's probably another bill attached
Well, they
for the
send
guy.
me a bill for that.
Well, they send you a bill for that. Plus, they give us a bill.
Yeah.
The prosecutors who spend hours and hours and hours, and then the first guy, he's gone now.
He's gone, so all that stuff he did.
So now there's a new prosecutor has to relearn all that stuff, and all of those hours are billed to us.
Well, yeah, and he's a different crown. It was a financial crimes crown before.
And the court time. I mean, you've been in court 40 times. You've never had your day in court, but you've had moments in court, and every one of those costs us a bundle. So, wow, we're talking close to $1 million by the time you're done in costs.
Yeah, for sure.
We're talking about. I mean, courts are not cheap at all. I mean, the judge, just to turn the lights on in those places, the stenographer, the sheriff, all these other costs that are there. I mean, we're probably talking a good $1 million of taxpayer dollars.
Oh, I'm sure.
To come after you.
I'm sure.
In the end, they might fine you. They might take some more of your money.
Another 600,000 there.
That's what they're asking for.
But we got this new crown now. He doesn't seem to share the same views as the other
that's
crown.
really positive.
So I'm hoping now for either, if I lose no jail sentence or a small one anyway.
Oh, am I ever happy to hear you say that?
So that's what I'm hoping for now.
I'm happy to hear you say that.
This guy's letting me have my passport back, and he knows about the ayahuasca retreat, and he said specifically he doesn't share the same views as Robin did on that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
No, this has been one of the most obscene cases in Canadian history, and it really needs to be publicized. We need to do a documentary about it, that our public servants can somehow twist their minds around into believing that it's somehow in the public's interest to be able to spend $1 million, ruin a man's life, and cost him $1 million, all so they can protect what? The public from medical cannabis?
It's corporations.
Like,
That's all they're
oh,
protecting.
you're right.
The
You're
Trudeau,
right.
the Trudeau cartel.
I'm being facetious. It's not about protecting people from medical cannabis. It's about protecting corporate interests from people being able to access medical cannabis or cannabis for medical purposes. And that's why we're under threat here. That's why we're not immediately licensed here. That's why they're saying now there's no path for us to move forward here with our little medical dispensary, that we are probably should just go away. You know,
Is that what they said?
that's what they said. Yeah,
Oh.
I got an email yesterday
Oh,
saying that cities, you know, they put the motion forward a year ago to allow for low barrier access to cannabis for the opioid
Right,
crisis. Part of that motion that they unanimously approved was that city staff was to go and find the ways to facilitate that, because that's the role of government, is to facilitate things. So that's what staff was instructed to do. We are over a year later. Staff has never come back with a report on how, and neither do they have any, and neither did they have any solution to how that motion could be enacted. But because we pushed the issue by opening this place, they consulted with senior levels of government. Who knows what that was? I suspect that was just some.
Hey, Justin, should we let these guys
No,
go?
not Justin at all. Maybe that's what Sal thinks is that you know, this goes straight to Justin, you know. But I think it's just some
He gets the
bureaucrat.
kickbacks for everything, doesn't he?
I think it's just a bureaucrat in the office acting on behalf of Justin for sure. But, you know, getting a phone call from some bureaucrat in the city hall asking about, you know, the possibilities of getting a license for a place to sell good, affordable cannabis with low barriers, and got told by that other bureaucrat, oh no, that's not going to be allowed. And then when they consulted the federal government, the federal bureaucrat said, oh no, well, actually, it's in the act itself that we're not going to be opening it for review for 5 years, not till 2023.
Wow.
So that's what it said in the email. It said that there's really no path forward for you
2023.
to get a license.
Takes them that long?
That's what, well, before the federal government's going to even look at it. That's what they said. That's
Wow.
that's in the act, that there'd be 5 years before they would review and then maybe make changes. So it said in the email, federal government is not prepared to make any changes to the Cannabis Act. It said, we at City Hall here in Vancouver have decided to follow Canada's lead on the cannabis file. And so that being the way it is, we're not going to be able to license you. That's what the email said yesterday. It also said that at this time, she, the councillor, is not aware of any plans of enforcement against us or the landlord, and that she would keep her eye on it and try to let us know if that was going to happen.
Sorry.
Gee, I just feel so safe now.
That's like, hey,
We're dropping
we're
all
not
of our
coming, we'll be
security
there in 5
protocols
minutes.
for a raid because, wow, she's going to keep her eye on it.
Yeah.
This is City Hall, where the licensing department was not aware of the motion passed unanimously to allow for this, was not aware that we had come to City Hall and made an understanding with them that we would open ahead of time and then get approval. So, you know, and then when the councillor became aware that the licensing department was not aware, she didn't even know who the manager of the licensing department was, or what his contact info was for her to be able to talk to him about the motion. So, you know, I don't have much faith in City Hall. I don't have much faith in government, period. And here we are now being threatened that we should close our doors and wait, and maybe they'll figure out a way that the LPs can get this action to be their action, even though they're not going to want to sell their good weed at $3 a gram and
No, but they'll take
their
the
great weed
location
at
over
$6.
because they know the customers are coming here already.
Oh, sure. They'll happily, you know,
They
put
do.
their overpackaged, undercured,
Yeah.
you know, old, shitty, irradiated weed out for people. Their edibles that are capped at 10 milligrams a piece for people that are needing hundreds of milligrams per dose to offset opioids and street drugs. I mean, that's what they think is okay, is that they get, if they're going to have a piece of it, that their cheapest gram will be probably $6 a gram, and they'll expect you to thank them for it on your way out. and they're going to have their $18, $19, $22 grams, and they're going to have their craft cannabis that's going to probably be $25 and $30 a
Oh, they
gram,
got more than
and their
that.
concentrates
Way
that are
more.
going to be $200 a gram, and that's what they expect people to be able to access. We're talking daily users. We're talking people that if they're going to get off of opioids and street drugs because they've been addicted to those things, and mostly it's not because they're addicted to those things, it's because they're dealing with serious issues. They're dealing with pain you can't imagine. They've got emotional trauma they don't even want to think about. And these people are just trying to get through one day to the next, and we're offering them a solution. They can use high-dose cannabis edibles to get the same and similar effects to what they're getting with those drugs that are harmful to them. That can work for them, but it's not going to be something that they're going to do on the weekends. It's not something that they're going to do one night a week while they're sitting at home watching TV. They're going to be daily users. They have to be daily users. Daily users cannot access the government stores. No daily user can go and spend $14 on a decent gram of weed and have that be what they're going to need, because they need 20 of those grams every day. They're going to need 100 of those chocolate bars in a weekend. It isn't working for them. They need things to work for them. These are the people we need to be concerned about. Our government shouldn't care about the rich people that can buy grams at $14 a gram. Our government should be concerned about the people that can't access it, that don't have money, that are stuck in their life, that are hurting. And they're our brothers and sisters and our children, and we should be helping them. And that's what I pay government to do. When I pay my taxes, I want them to use those taxes to help these poor people that have gone through stuff that I can't even imagine. That's who I want to be helped with our tax dollars. But instead, they're using our tax dollars to shut down access to medical cannabis dispensaries, to shut us down, and to stop us from giving weed to people that will help them in ways that will help them at prices that they can afford, or free if they can't afford it. And they think it's okay to spend their money coming after us and stopping us. They think it's okay to go after Jerry Martin and shut him down and stop him from helping people. This is the government that we think we want. We don't want this government. This government needs to be disbanded. This government needs to be thrown out. This whole system of governance needs to be revisited. We need to be adult human beings sitting at a table saying, we are free. What do we want from the public servants that we're paying money to? Because we're not getting what any of us want. The corporations are getting what they want out of our government. Our government. We pay for it. We bought it. It's worth trillions of dollars. They take it from us every year. We pay for it. It's ours, and it belongs to the corporations. We need to stop what's going on here, and this is the best example in our society of the corruption and how deep it runs and how far it reaches to the top of our government. That Trudeau and his cartel think it's okay that we abandon the poor people that they've been murdering for years with their policies on drugs, that it's okay to keep doing that, and they can just somehow get rich, win a lottery, and go use the government stores and buy non-medical cannabis and not be able to get off those street drugs and opioids. So, man, I'm ranting because I'm pissed off. I want to be happy with government. I want to be happy and secure here in my
You know,
store.
I find it's funny they won't allow us to help people with cannabis, but they'll buy Gaddafi's son a $3 million yacht and hookers on the books.
Yeah,
But that's okay and ethical.
yeah, there's so much corruption here.
Yeah.
There's so much hypocrisy, and it really touches close to my heart because they're hurting people that I care about. They're hurting my ability to help people that I care about, and there is no justification for it whatsoever. I don't care what laws are on the books. I want justification. If what we're doing here is hurting people, I want to see the victims. I want to know the statistics. I want to know why it is that our police and our governments should be taxed to stop us from doing what we're doing here. Who are we harming? We're not harming anybody. There's not even people that are harmed when they eat too much cannabis. They don't have a comfortable night for one night. They wish they didn't do that. They would have rather not. But it's not anything that we could call significant harm. It's not anything that you would ever use the criminal law to try to prevent. It's not anything that our public servants need to be concerned about.
That's what warning labels are for.
That's what warning labels, exactly. Regulations need to be reasonable. They need to be the least intrusive possible. And government's job is to facilitate us free people in doing the business that we want to do amongst each other and doing the things that we want to do. And regulations are only about protecting things when there's harm that can arise. So they've got no justification for this, just decades of reefer madness and lies that they've been telling that have all been demystified since then. They're all lies. Cannabis is a supplement to our endocannabinoid system. It works for just about everything that could be wrong with us. So yeah, this is getting to me. I mean, we need to stop all of this, and you know, one day you might. I still don't think so. I've been saying since the beginning, they're going to drop the charges. They can't possibly face you in court. You know, they're not
probably not looking forward.
They're not completely. They are evil. They are unethical. They are immoral, but they're not completely stupid. And so, you know, I don't think you ever get your day in court, Jerry, that's going to satisfy you at all. And but you know, we're going to keep on pursuing it, and we're going to keep on following it. And you know, that's the best thing we can do at this point, is as we try to find ways to change it. So thanks again, man, for keeping on coming at us with us here and telling us what's going on and keeping on, you know, staying strong. You're looking good. You're looking happy. You're, you know, you're not on Facebook, so I don't know as much anymore.
Yeah, it's been like a month.
Yeah.
I noticed they haven't sent the email to say your account has been deleted for more than 30 days. Yeah, I know I did the God molecule again yesterday.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I love
Nice.
it.
Well, did you say hello for me? Did you say hello for me?
We can take you out there one day.
I'm happy to be under the influence. I don't really need a personal conversation. I'm just following the flow laid out for me, you know? Wonderful stuff, Jerry. We'll catch up with you again probably next week and see where we're at then. It seems to change or stay the same every week, you know? The more it changes, the more it stays the same. Prohibition and legalization seem to be the same thing. So, very good. Thanks, Jerry. Why we have to fight, I really don't know. Why it isn't just as plain as the nose on anybody's face. Well, I guess I understand it's all because of greed and corruption. I know that that's what's going on. We're pounding away at it every time we get a chance here because that's what's going on here. I learned a long time ago that prohibition is a logic-free zone, and I'd only drive myself crazy if I tried to look at it through the lens of, well, here's public servants trying to help people, and why are they continuing to do it like this when this doesn't work and all of that. I gave up trying to make logic out of it a long time ago. I know that it just makes money for people, and that's what's really driving everything. And when people have money at stake, they're willing to do all sorts of nasty things to get that money. So, you know, we've done this program for the last 3.5 years of handing out high-dose edibles to people because that was the right thing to do, and that was something that we knew had to happen, whether government would support us or criminalize us or not. And so this wonderful group of people formed to start handing out cannabis edibles and help me do that from Vandu. And along the way, we had many people help us and contribute to our program there. And we're only here today doing what we're doing the way we're doing it because of all those people that helped us. And I like to talk to some of the people that have donated, and you've met a number of them on the show. And today I have another fella who's been quite integral, actually. I'm not sure he understands it, but he might, because he's a pretty smart guy. That his contributions to what we're doing here have really been enormous, and that you know, at any time, this is a program that could have failed, that you know, we could have had to turn people away because we didn't have what they needed. And everyone's contribution along the way has been pretty critical in keeping it going, but some obviously more than others. And so my guest today is Robert Stafford, and he's been a contributor to not just us, but to this community in general for quite a while. He's a man with a super large heart, and he just won't stop. He's kind of relentless in helping, and I hope that today we get to find out a little bit about what drives him and why that's the case. So Robert, come on in here and say hi to us. You live your life in a chair. You're going to slide over onto this one. I hope you're going to be comfortable enough. I know you'll endure it no matter what. You've endured far worse things than this. So welcome to the THC show.
Oh, thank you.
So are you from Vancouver?
No, I'm originally from back east in Ontario.
Right, and, so whereabouts in Ontario?
A little place called Madoc is where I grew up.
Okay.
But I'm from a place called Deserano originally, which is just outside of a native reservation.
That's where you went to school?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've been out in Vancouver since I was, I guess, 15.
Okay, so did you finish schooling here in Vancouver, or were you already out of school at that time?
No, I never finished school.
You never finished school?
Never finished school.
So the schooling you got was back in Ontario?
Yeah, and then the streets of Vancouver.
I see.
You know.
So is that is there reasons for that? You know, was it you had a tough upbringing, or how was your upbringing? I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know anything about.
I lost my parents at a very young age.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And I wasn't going to hang around with my family and watch the things going on.
So your family was dysfunctional.
Yeah, so I thumbed across the country. And
so that's why you left at 15.
Yep, and ended up in Maine and Hastings in Vancouver.
Wow,
you know,
that's a nasty place to land here.
You know what? It taught me a lot of lessons.
Yeah. And what year would that have been?
Oh, 83 or 84.
Hey, this was a tough neighborhood back then.
Always been a tough neighborhood. Always. But I never had any problems with the toughness here. I just had. I'm an addict, straight up. You know.
An addict of what?
More.
More.
Don't care what it is. I just want more of it.
Right.
You know, and that's how it was until I finally seen enough.
Was there a moment in time when that happened?
Oh yeah, there was a big moment in time, and that was when they were reviving me at St. Paul's Hospital and telling me, "Do you know what you just did?"
I see.
And I said, "No," and they pretty much explained that 4 shots of Narcan, and I finally started to come around, and that to me was time for me to stop.
Up to that point, did you consider, you know, that death might be one of the outcomes of ingesting drugs and anything?
I knew death was the outcome. You know, it didn't bother me because I really had nothing to live for.
So what changed in that moment in the hospital? You know, what changed?
I really don't know what it was. I just had this thing that came about me that said, no more. It's time to leave it. Stop. Find other things. Alternatives.
So,
the only alternative
So did you wake up the following morning and still remember that you'd had that little epiphany in your life, and did it really change your course?
Haven't looked back. I've never touched it again.
I see.
I walked away from chemicals and hard drugs that moment.
I see.
I realized that there was much more to me than I really knew. So at that point, it was time for Robert to start to grow inside and figure out who he was and do what he does.
And so how did that manifest itself? What did you find along that journey?
I found that I'm very compassionate with people that have problems.
Right.
Basically, street
you can identify people. Because you were kind of there. Is that?
I've been there. Been there.
You've been
walk
there.
The walk.
So you can empathize with people who are there.
Yeah, and especially when they say they want out.
Right.
You know.
So you've been helping people get out as well as yourself.
Of course. You know, I've had many different people help me through the years get out. So I was always
told. And that support group was important.
Of course it was, and I was always told that if you don't give it away, you'll never receive anymore.
See.
And that's everything in life. If that's intelligence or whatever.
Was that a lesson from your childhood, or
no? That was actually a lesson from some people that you wouldn't expect it from. We'll just go that way.
Okay.
And
but for some reason, it stuck.
It stuck.
And it became part of your filter for looking through the world and how you make your decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got told that I had cancer.
When was that?
That was in '85, and they told me that I was.
So you were still a young man.
Still a very young man.
Very young man.
Stage 4, and that I might just well gather my shit together and get ready to go. And I had a friend of mine that he said, "You're not going nowhere on us." And he fed me Phoenix tears.
I see.
RSO, Rick Simpson oil.
What was your relationship with cannabis up to that point?
At that point, it was recreational, totally.
Would you go and buy bags of weed for yourself, or would you just?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were doing all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
But when I decided that there was better uses for it, when I seen and read stories about people that had used Rick Simpson oil to get away from dying,
right?
Literally,
right?
And being told that I was stage 4, I had one choice: try it.
And one attitude: why not?
That's right.
Yeah. Why not?
And I guess it was about 6 months after I'd started doing a gram a day.
Right?
I got told that by my oncologist that there was no sign of cancer anymore.
Wow.
Something to cannabis. At that point,
Oh
there's
yeah,
something to
there
cannabis.
is something to cannabis. You know, I don't know that it's the absolute cure-all for every type of cancer and everything. I doubt that it is. Those are very complicated issues. But I'll tell you, there's a number of people that it absolutely has cured.
Yes.
And so yeah.
I'm very fortunate for what it's done for me. But my walk in life, that was when I was mobile, and you know, my walk in life, I started helping others with cannabis at that point.
Right.
And using.
So you were cultivating cannabis as well?
Of course. I was making oil. I was making shatter. I was doing whatever I had to do. You know.
So for quite a while, you've been pretty heavily involved in getting cannabis to people to help them.
20 years.
Wow. How did you find the Cannabis Substitution Project?
I actually found it through some friends. You know, that's how we all find things, is through word of mouth.
Right.
And in this community, word of mouth is very essential. And
so I don't remember my first meeting with you.
I remember my first meeting with you.
Okay.
It was, I didn't actually meet up with you, but it was at a Cannabis Day event down at the art gallery. And
Okay.
this was about 5 or 6 years ago, I think.
It would have to be now, probably at least 5 or 6.
It was when I was first put in my chair, so it was 5 years.
Right.
And I was sitting there listening to John Conroy, and you were up there talking as well at one point, and John got done talking, and I'd forgot I was even in my wheelchair, and I was sitting on my back wheels, and I started clapping when he was done, and back I went. And that's when I met you.
Went over backwards.
Flipped over backwards.
Ah.
But that's how we met.
I see.
Yeah.
So did I come to see what was going on with you?
Well, you just asked me if I was okay. I remember that, and yeah, I'm fine.
I think I remember that too. That is a number of years ago,
yeah,
for sure.
But that's when I think it was when I met you the first time. But it was quite a few years later. I think it was probably 3 years later I got involved with the substitution program, and maybe 4 years.
I think maybe you sent us something through somebody else for one of your initial donations.
Through Dylan.
Through Dylan.
Yes.
And then you did come in there, and then from there you came fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And man, you got these caramels that are 150 milligrams each that really help people.
Those caramels were built for me.
Yeah.
And as a lot of people know, I'm in a chair now suffering with MS, and I don't take their pills.
Right.
I take my caramels, and that kills my pain.
Right. It allows you to function.
It allows me a daily use of me. I wake up in the morning and I take 10,000 milligrams of THC basically just to get rolling.
Wow.
You know?
No, you should just use the government stores. They got 10 milligram chocolate bars.
No, thanks. I'd sooner make my own.
You could get your daily dose from chocolate bars. Then you'd be 400 pounds.
I'm very, very much set against LPs. So
well, so far so are we. Except that I guess what we want is to be LPs. Give us a license to produce cannabis and help people. Give all of my suppliers a license to help people.
I don't know if I want a license from the government of Canada to be able to do anything like that, for the simple reason
that too.
They're nothing but a bunch of cons.
I know, a bunch of crooks.
They just want everything and don't want nobody else to have.
Well, seems that way.
I've witnessed so much in the last 4 years of the medical cannabis industry that has went for a
being
shit.
Decimated.
It's gone for a shit.
Absolutely.
You know.
So many people that are just desperate because of it that I meet. You know, prior to having this store here, you know, what do you tell people? I mean, their access was just cut down. There was 180 dispensaries in Vancouver. Most of them had memberships in the thousands.
Yep. And we lost them all overnight, basically.
Pretty much within a pretty short period of time.
It was like 3 months period, and they were all gone. And then we see them every once in a while pop open.
Well, there's a few that managed to survive. The Blue Door has survived. There's other places that have survived. Now there's, like you say, there's more popping up here and there.
Yeah, and it's the ones that were here before that still have their locations, and I could name off names, but that wouldn't be right. They wait until the seasonal times, and they open up. they make their money, and then they close.
I see. So there's that game being played here.
There's definitely that game being played in
Right, because I
Vancouver.
know there's a number of them that have just popped up here in the last month, 2 months
Yep,
in Vancouver.
and that's only.
And I do know that at least 1, 2 of them have closed down pretty quickly after that as well. So you might be right. You know, maybe they bring in their big crop, they open up. You know,
ditch
I don't know
their
what's
crop,
going on.
and the way it goes, you know.
Whatever it takes.
You know what?
Whatever it takes. I mean, the
I'm
farmers market people.
I'm happy for them, you know, because I would sooner them smoking and selling their product than selling and smoking LP.
Yeah, and the farmers market is still active in Vancouver. They're setting up tents and tables every once in a while in Thornton Park and other locations.
8 months ago, I went to the LP because I just wanted to see what their weed looked like.
Right.
And I bought a gram, and it came in a little container that looked like it was a medical thing, and to me, it's completely ridiculous. The more plastic being wasted than.
Right.
But
it was funny that Trudeau had the big initiative for getting rid of single-use plastics, and then his cartel insists on using these single-use plastic containers.
But you turn it around and you look at the date on it, and it's a year over date that it was put in that container.
Yeah.
So
and you take it out and it powderizes.
Yeah, it's no good for
it's
nothing.
got no smell to it. There's no terpenes left.
Why do they even bother? You know,
and now they're coming out with better cannabis, I'm told, and they have other cannabis that's quite a bit more expensive. That some of it's supposed to be not too bad.
Well, and it's
and I see some of our sellout friends, back east that are saying, "Oh wow, man, there's still this good gram here. Look at that. That's a really good gram, and it's only $10." And hey, anybody can afford that. Well, and now they're going to come up with craft cannabis. They're going to allow in a bunch of craft growers. I mean, they're not going to sell that weed at the same price as they sell their regular weed, so you can imagine that's going up.
And I'm going to tell you something about that craft licensing. It's not that easy.
Probably not.
I know. I looked into it, and I'd sooner just keep doing what I'm doing.
I'm told there's 3 stores that have opened up. It's not Burlington. It's someplace in Ontario. They're calling themselves medical stores. They say they're licensed by Health Canada. They say they're using local sourced cannabis through micro producers that are being licensed. So there is some of that going on. But one of the things they said is that the application process was 278 pages long.
Yeah. I looked into it. I was definitely going to go for it because I wanted to do something in the medical side instead of being pushed recreational. And that's the way it's going and I don't care what anybody says. They're going to try and push all of us medical patients out.
Yep, they have.
And they're going to just run their recreational and
they don't want anything to do with something that says medical, for one thing.
They could care less about any of us. And
it's not about us.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm an MMAR patient.
So MMAR means you have a license to grow your own plants.
Yeah, you come and take my weed. I dare you.
Yeah, well.
It's
come to that. I mean, we shouldn't be feeling this way about growing medical plants for ourselves and our public servants. You know how it just gets me every time in moments and moments all day long where it just hits me. This is so wrong. We can't stand for this. We got to stop this because it's only getting worse every day.
I heard you talking earlier about Trudeau, and his merry men of fucking gangsters, but I remember when he was running for PM the first time, and he was going to do all this and that for us, and the only thing he really did was fuck this. He shut us down, and he told us, no, you can't make any money anymore. You can't make a living to keep your family alive. You can't do this anymore. Unless you come and work for us.
He reaffirmed that belief that we have about politicians, that they're going to lie to one group out of one side of their face and then lie to the opposite group out of the other side of their face. And you can't trust what they say, and they're really just in it for their rich friends. And that's the way it is.
Well, and that's the way it is, because if you look at who's head of all these corporations, all the LPs, they're all ex-politicians.
Ex-cops.
Or ex-RCMPs or ex-OPP or whatever they are,
There shouldn't be any of them.
They're not.
They should be forbidden.
They're not
from
the people
owning, from profiting on the sale of cannabis. These people should not be allowed to be profiting on the sale of cannabis. My God.
I personally
They're lucky
think
they're not in jail.
it should be grassroots people that are running these
Absolutely.
businesses and
Everybody that comes to
people that-
420, we have several hundred vendors that come to 420. Some of them buy spots and are put on a list, and others just show up and put up their tables and tents. Almost all of them have, well, not all of them, but the vast majority of them have some decent graphics involved. They're trying to look like some sort of a mainstream business. They're trying to just be ordinary, normal, commercial people. And every single one of them that was ever coming to 420 pretty much is still, what they were doing there is still illegal. They're not part of legalization. How can they not be part of legalization? They're what legalization is supposed to be for.
But these are the people that, and this is, I'm seeing it from the other eyes, not my eyes, but the other eyes. These people that are there are not working for the government. They're not working towards
Right,
helping
the government's
the
not
government.
getting their cut.
They're not getting their cut. They're not getting their taxes. And I really believe that if they opened it up and made some different regulations, you know, I'm totally willing to share taxes. You know?
Well, I'm not willing to put tax on our products from the source to the customer, but I'm certainly willing to pay my own taxes.
But
I mean, you know.
that's what I'm saying. For my
Yeah.
business, I'm willing to pay taxes for my business. You know?
Yeah, for money I make off the business, yes, I'm willing to pay tax
You
on
know,
that.
and
The products that we're providing to people cannot be increased in price by taxation.
No.
The government should be supplementing what we're doing here.
And-
They should be giving us some sort of a way to make it even cheaper for people
In all
in this case,
actuality-
because it really helps in so many aspects of life when people have access to cannabis.
In all actuality, when you go to the drugstore and you buy a pharmacy drug over the counter, like, you know,
Yeah.
there's not taxes on it.
I don't know what there is.
There is no taxes on it.
I don't buy them. I don't know.
So, with that being said,
Are you talking about when it's part of your pharmacare plan, or just in general, you
In
can go and buy
general,
aspirins and there's
well,
no tax on it?
no, like drugs. As in-
Aspirin's not a drug?
well, it is, but it isn't. It's
So
an-
they
it's
do
a-
put a tax on Tylenol.
Yes,
Okay.
but when it's a prescription drug,
Right,
it is not taxed.
right.
So, with that being said, how come the individual that's even a medical patient is still taxed?
Right.
How come?
I don't get it at all. There's
Doesn't
a
make
whole
sense
bunch
to
of
me.
hypocrisy going on here. How is it that our provincial government gets to send me a letter saying medical cannabis is a federal issue? I thought medical issues were provincial issues.
I thought so too, but
That's
you
what
know,
I thought. And what I pointed out to the person that wrote me that letter, this regulatory group, License and Regulating Secretariat or something like that, sent me a letter saying that they were aware that I had sent emails to the Premier, to our MLA here, and and that I had this proposed solution to the opioid crisis. And they said that first and foremost, medical cannabis is not a provincial issue, it's a federal issue. Secondly, rest assured that we've done lots and lots of things for the opioid crisis. We've spent millions of dollars here, there, and the other place for medical, or for the opioid crisis. And by the way, you're not going to be able to get licensed for your proposal from the federal government either, because they just don't do that what you're saying there. So I wrote them back and I said, thank you for your response, although I find it disgusting and inappropriate. You've done absolutely zero for the opioid crisis with respect to allowing easy access to medical cannabis, which would be one of the solutions to the opioid crisis. And in fact, you've had a concerted effort and wasted taxpayers' money through the CSU to shut down access to medical cannabis. And so cannabis is not only effective for helping people off of opioids and replacing hard street drugs, but it's also beneficial in a whole bunch of other medical ways for people. Also, on the other hand, it is completely safe. It is one of the safest therapeutically active compounds known to man. So there's no reason for all this unjustified overregulation. There's no reason to artificially boost the price to where it is here. So shame on you and your department for sending me this letter. Shame on you for enforcing or attempting to enforce these unethical laws. And people are dying because they can't get access to cannabis. So guess what that means? You know, you're murdering people. So, you know, it's just disgusting.
it's a vicious circle.
It's so much hypocrisy.
And it's gonna be a fight until we're gone.
Probably, but I want to see some movement before I go. I'm not willing to go yet.
And somebody else is going to have to step up and keep on fighting.
We're always going to have to fight for our rights. I mean, understand that. You know, the fight for freedom is always something that will be here. Our future generations, every one of us always has to teach our kids and be very vigilant about, you know, who it is that is in that office of public servitude, because, you know, they're bound to be bribed, they're bound to be threatened, they're bound to be working for somebody that you don't want them to be working for.
Well,
and we need to hold their feet to the fire. We need to keep them honest. We need to institute policies that prevent them from being able to be corrupted the way that they have been. We need to put some checks and balances into our dumbocracy here to prevent the corruption that we now have to live with, that we're all now aware of, that is completely obvious by their take on cannabis. We need to do this, people. We need to sit down as reasonable adults and construct a system of democracy that works for us. Because right now, this is working for the corporations. It's not working for us. It's certainly not working for the people out here that we're trying to help. They're not our friends, these public servants. They're not facilitating you and I in helping our brothers and sisters out here. Our family, our children are out here. All of us as Canadians are losing our children to the drug war, and they're not helping us. They're getting in our way here. I mean, if they can't help us, get the hell out of the way. I mean, they should be helping us.
And the drug war is just another story altogether.
Wow, that's what this is all about. This is about this war on certain drugs that the government and their friends can't control, in an effort to allow the government and their friends, mostly their friends through our public servants. It's more like a working relationship where our public servants are actually working for them to protect their interests of these patentable synthetic drugs that they want to sell, or other things that they can have control over. And they're scared shitless of this plant that anybody can grow and anybody can bake into cookies or consume in ways that help them, and would replace those synthetic pharmaceuticals that they're making 3,000% markup on, and using all of that leverage and all that money to put down cannabis, to keep people from being able to access what we deserve here. This is a horrible conspiracy. It's a horrible crime. It's trillions of dollars. It's millions of lives. It's one of the biggest obvious areas of corruption in our society here. And right here in the trenches on the front lines, I'm telling you, there's thousands of people right outside this door. Many of them we could rescue. We can rescue many of these children and brothers and sisters of ours if we're given the ability to provide easy access to cannabis. So yeah, it's a big, huge story. It's all about drug prohibition and what that's all about.
Yeah.
You know, keeping all these groups employed. Legalization somehow managed to continue the gravy train for all of these groups that have been making money on prohibition. None of them had to cut their budgets. Most of them had their budgets increased. Legalization. Oh my God.
And then during
I need a puff.
Then during COVID, when you look at everything that's going on, and all these LPs that are asking for money from the government because COVID hit and they don't have any money because of their stupid people in power in those shops that are spending their money left, right, and center.
Meanwhile, we're deemed an essential service during COVID when we had our lineup out on the street there.
Yeah.
And Coastal Health, who never comes and talks to us at all about anything ever, even though we're dishing out, you know, over 250,000 doses of high-dose edibles have been put out by the Cannabis Substitution Program in the last 3.5 years. High-dose edibles, you know that it's a crime, you know, to have high-dose, you know, the government says they have to regulate it. They can only allow for 10 milligrams at a time. We give out 420 milligrams at a time. For 3.5 years, we've been giving out high-dose edibles. Where was Coastal Health? They've never come to check it out. They've never come to see, hey, you're giving out high-dose cannabis edibles. How many people are overdosing? How many people are in hospital? How many people have had their lungs shattered? How many people have had their brains exploded? You know, they should be coming and checking out the damage being done by this dangerous commodity that they think they have to restrict with the criminal law. Where was Coastal Health? Well, they showed up when we had the pandemic to tell us to keep doing what we're doing. Can you imagine? Keep doing what you're doing. You're helping people. You shouldn't stop. We don't want to have these people out back into the poison drug supply and the pandemic. So, you know, it's just insanity out here. I mean, you know, if I wasn't living this, I would think it was some kind of a story that somebody made up, man, and it just couldn't possibly be real.
Yeah.
So let's step aside from all that for a minute. And you're in a chair, and it wasn't a traumatic injury, or was it?
No.
It's a
No.
progression of MS. Yes.
Yeah, I have MS, but I also have a couple other things going on in my system that it is what it is. You know, I've got degenerative disc disease and I've got diabetic neuropathy, which left me with no feeling in my feet whatsoever. So that's why the chair really,
Right.
because I can't feel my feet when they hit the ground. Right. So when you can't
And
feel,
your journey with cannabis as a medicine started when you were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Yep.
And found that the RSO oil, Rick Simpson's oil, really helped and made the cancer disappear. And then from there, you've suffered other things in your life, and it's been a journey since then of using cannabis as medicine, I would imagine.
Yes, most definitely. It's I'm not going to say that I always did use cannabis as a medicine,
You gotta
or
try
even
lots of things,
or
don't you, when
even
you're in
as
pain?
or even as a recreational, because there was a number of years that, because I was a raving alcoholic, and I for a number of years went to AA, and I was told that you can't talk about pot, you can't smoke pot because
Right.
you're
But
in
you can
AA.
drink coffee there,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can smoke cigarettes there.
Well,
You can consume sugar there.
so with that being said, I followed their lead for many years
Right.
and didn't take anything and was in major pain.
Right.
And finally, I just said, you know what? I've got my MMAR. Why am I not using this? Because I was not in this pain when I was using cannabis as my medicine.
Right.
And then I started learning about different things you can do with cannabis. And you know what? You can play some very, very nice tricks with medicine or with cannabis. That it's all in how you cook with it, you know.
Right.
And that's to me
So
what
it's how you maximize the potency.
Yeah, that's how I learned how to do it. I'm a chef by trade.
I see.
So with that being said, I've learned how to play scientifically, and I make some of the best butter in the world, I think.
Right.
You know, and
We have great reports back on whatever you've given us along the way here. How much do you personally use on an average daily basis?
On an average daily basis, I'm probably 25 to 30,000 milligrams a day.
Wow.
But at the same time, I'm able to do things that I wouldn't be able to do if I was taking pills.
Right.
Because I know where the pills would take me.
Right. They melt your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it sounds like a lot.
That's my way of saying that it really defeats your motivation. It really, causes people to just sort of like sink into a couch and not get anything done in a given day.
And cannabis, they say, couch locks people, you know. I'm a straight up fucking source that it doesn't couch lock people. All I do is indicas. So I don't play with sativa at all because I'm haywire enough.
Well, the indica is what you're using to kill the pain that you're dealing with.
And you know,
and for people that are using cannabis for pain issues, they're not getting high for the most part. They're able to deal with their pain. Their pain is being set aside a bit, but there's not a lot left over to be giddy like a school kid or something.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. There's probably 2 times a day I'm giddy high.
Yeah.
One is first thing in the morning when I grab a hold of my diamonds.
Right.
And I do a great big dab, and I take my caramel and I throw it in my coffee maker or in my coffee cup, and I make myself a coffee.
Right.
I'm set for about 2 hours.
And you're actually able to feel good, like you say, a little bit giddy for a little bit in the mornings.
You know, and that gives me my motivation for the day. If I didn't have that in the morning, I wouldn't get up. I'd stay in bed.
Right.
I got nothing else to get up for.
Cannabis kind of does the same thing for me too.
You know,
I smoke some cannabis, my brain starts going around and around, and all of a sudden I got things to do. And
thinking.
It
opens up my thinking pores, and it says, "This is what you got to do today."
Yeah. And I believe in being proactive. When I think of doing something, I try to do it. And so it's always given me a whole bunch of different, or been a vehicle for me coming up with different things that are creative that I can get a kick out of doing, and so I do them.
Well, all I can say is that I know that I can do a half a gram dab of fucking diamonds in the morning and I feel great. But if I was to take the prescription drugs that they want me to
Morphine or diluted or whatever.
I would be couch locked and wouldn't do nothing.
Yeah,
I'd
stay
have
in
no
bed.
motivation.
As so many people find themselves.
You know,
So many people find
to
themselves
me,
there.
I want to help people. So with that being said, that means I have to get out of bed. I have to get up and I have to come to these places like this shop. I donate here because I know that it works. I donate as much as I possibly can, and they also sell my products here. But at the same time, the sale of my products here is not for me, it's for them.
Sure. It facilitates you doing exactly what we're doing here too. We're selling products because it supports what we're able to do with the CSP. But our whole focus here is really with the CSP, is really getting it to the people that can't afford it, and everything else is here to facilitate that.
That's right. Now we're going to change up our donations here a little bit coming. We're going to add a few more.
I see.
So, you know, and it's all going to be CBD products.
I should mention to our audience that have been following along over the weeks and months here, you know, we had to cap our membership because we didn't know how much we could provide. We've opened that back up again, so we're adding another 4 or 5 people a day. We're not turning people away like we were before.
Oh, good.
We're working our way down the waiting list that we have. Most people didn't leave a phone number, but those that did, we're contacting, and the others, as they come in, they're being included on our list. So it's working here as it was supposed to, that once we had a storefront and this type of legitimacy, that more people would help us. But we still don't have our piece of paper with a signature on it. When we get that, then the good that we can do will be even more profound.
You know what? I think we really need, and this might sound really funny, but you know, AA has these clubs called Alano clubs. You know?
See, I'm not too familiar.
We should have clubs in every community,
yeah,
available for people to go to sit and smoke a joint with somebody.
Yeah.
Sit and have a dab with somebody.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know? Consumption lounges is something that we have in our plans. They need to be included. They need to be mandatory. We told that to City Council. Myself and many other people went back, back in the day when they were proposing their regulations for dispensaries. And, I made it quite clear that people in many cases don't have a place to consume. People that are here from out of town that can't consume where they're staying. And the stigma that's in our society, that people need this sense of community. People need to be able to have what the beer drinkers have, a place to go and commune with each other.
Like I just said, even AAers have a place to go and communicate with each other.
When they're drinking or when they're not drinking.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, why are we not allowed?
No, we're not on equal footing.
No, we definitely are not.
And we should be on higher footing. This is what public servants should encourage, is community pot shops like this and community consumption lounges. That should be encouraged by our society. If we could displace a third of the people that spend their afternoons in bars drinking themselves into oblivion, and then all the carnage that happens as a result of that every night here in Canada, if we could displace a third of those people by giving them cannabis consumption lounges to visit, how much good would that do? Everywhere you turn around, easy access to cannabis is going to save our communities money. It's going to make people's lives better. It's going to save people who would otherwise die. Cannabis should not be taxed. It should be supplemented. The government should be giving us money to supplement our access to cannabis. They should be providing it free. If they won't, they should at least allow us to have a little business that would support giving it away free. So, yeah, should. I'm shitting all over the government.
Yeah,
they should. Damn it.
I hope it happens.
I want it to happen. I don't know what the word is.
I'm optimistic
I'm an optimist. I try to be a realist, but I'm a bit of an idealist.
But at the same time, when I look at what we've been dealt, my optimism is quite low at this point, because we've been dealt a shitty hand.
Well, when you say that, Do you mean our generation dealt by the generations before in the system of governance that we're living in? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, we've been dealt shitty hands all along by the government. The government's not here to help the average Joe blow on the street. The government's
which
here
is so what they should be doing.
you would think that
would think.
that's the people that would be
If
voting
somebody
for
needs
them.
help,
Then help them.
that's what we do, isn't it? I mean,
Well, and
know,
as far
as
as I'm,
people.
as people, yes, but as far as I'm concerned, in many nations in this country or in this world, what are the Canadians most known for?
Politeness and helping
And
out
that's
and
right.
all
And
that.
you know what? Our government don't give a fuck. They aren't helping us. They aren't helping their own people.
We are supposedly, and I believe this from the stories I've been told by other people, but over the number of decades and hundreds of years previous, here in Canada, we are, less oppressed by governments than most other places throughout history and around the world.
Yes.
And in many of those places, they can't do much about it. They are under the gun. They are under the thumb.
Well, yeah.
And it's a scary proposition.
That's right. It's life or
They
death.
are like
for them.
abused children.
It's like life or death.
When people are abused, they become abusers in many cases. They act out and lash out in ways that try to express what's happened to them and display their anger. They don't function properly.
That's right.
So here in Canada, we've been allowed the benefit of being able, other than our Indigenous brothers and sisters who certainly have not had the benefit of what I'm referring here, we are absolutely privileged as the European white persons that came and invaded and seized this property and colonized it, absolutely. But I'm speaking about us, me, the white privileged person here, and that which I am part of, that we've had it easy for the most part. And because of that, I think we're better balanced. I think we're less angry. I think that we are more able to function. And that's why we are known as being helping people, that we are known as being polite people. We are known as being people that are stand-up, solid people. That's what Canadians have that reputation of. And I believe that's what we are, for the most part, generally speaking, that we as people, we don't walk past that person that's dying on the street.
No.
We don't turn away from responsibilities. We try to do the right thing, and government is supposed to represent us.
Yep.
And that's where they are failing and failing
but
miserably.
The reason for this too, and I could be wrong in this, but I'm also a firm believer that if you don't vote in our country, you're doing yourself wrong.
Probably, but it would be nice to have things to vote for that we could believe in and we could trust.
I totally agree with you on that.
Thank God we've got that process.
But
change can be brought, and it has been and will be. We don't know the power of voting in the future, but we need to keep voting. We need to all exercise that right.
We need to teach our
and responsibility.
Teach our children that voting is your right.
And responsibility.
And it's your responsibility, because
to at least do some due diligence. I didn't vote for a period in my life because I didn't believe I was in control of enough thoughts about who there was to vote for and what they were all about. And I felt that as an uneducated person about the issues at hand, that I wouldn't cast a vote. I was not educated enough to cast a vote. But we should all educate ourselves. It is all of our responsibility to seek out what it is that these people are saying, even though they're lying to us when they're running for government.
Have a good day.
If you don't vote, you got no right to bitch.
I still don't know about that. I mean, I like that statement, and I buy into it a little bit. But we got rights here, and
we do.
I mean, look at John West, for example. Bless his heart. His campaign for a long time was vote for none of the above. That was his thing.
And I don't disagree with that.
If it could work, but instead what happens is a lot of good people that want that to work, they abstain from voting. They let the masses of voters that have been bought and paid for by the political party machines that have the capital to do that, and the understanding and the sophistication as to how to manipulate people to vote for them. So, that wasn't really an answer either. I mean, the answer answer is good people get involved with politics. As creepy and slimy as that is that I'm suggesting that people do, good people need to get involved. You need to get into a party if you want to see change there. I know that it's corrupt. You know, it would depend on what kind of job they did, but really that's too much money, I think, for anybody. But, you know, it should at least be the reflection of how powerfully well they did their job in protecting the weak and helping the people that need help. And that's what we need our governments to be doing. Educate us and our children properly. Protect us from that which would harm us and get in our way, and warn us about those kind of things. Facilitate our needs with respect to, you know, how we spend public money on providing access to the things that we need. Those are the roles of government. The role of government is not to be our parents. They should never have had any ability to do that. You know, deciding for us what we should do for ourselves with respect to which plants we can access or anything like that is not their business. Nobody's business but ours, how we do our business until it's harming people. And then government has a role. They should what? They have no control over the plants. We have an inherent right to the plants, the cacti, the mushrooms, and the fungi that's on this planet. We, as naturally evolved beings that came from this earth, have an inherent right to accessing those things. And no dictator has the right to tell you you can't, and certainly no public servant should be getting into that realm. It's not their business. And it's obvious. This should be the example for future generations. This whole exercise of public servants deciding that they should try to restrict access to a couple of the plants on the planet, and all that resulted in the armed criminal gangs, the money laundering, the loss of respect for our governments and police, the multitude of ruined lives, the trillions of wasted tax dollars, all of these things which are the so-called unintended consequences of trying to prohibit access to a few of nature's plants. This should be an exercise for future generations to say, let's limit the powers of government. Let's not allow them ever again to be involved in these things. They can't be trusted, for God's sake. They should not have any rights in those positions. The rights of a servant. That's what they have. The rights of a servant. Their whole focus, their whole job, they are paid to be serving the public's interests. And you know, we learned a long time ago, prohibition doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It enriches gangsters. It puts, you know, dangerous things underground. It doesn't deter the use of potentially dangerous things. And yet here they are still doing it. Why? Because when I say it doesn't work, I mean it doesn't work for you and me. It doesn't work for the masses of people here. It works for a select few that make money on prohibition, that make money on all the products that are now forced upon us. It does work for making money for that group of people. But that's not who's supposed to be in charge here, and we're paying our public servants a lot of money to try to make sure that that doesn't happen. Right?
During COVID, had
Quadruple.
their income in the recreational market.
Sad to hear. Sad to hear. I don't think anybody should support that system. That's how I feel about it, you know? And that system is why we're having trouble helping people here. That system is preventing people from having access to good quality cannabinoids at affordable prices. So who would support that system? Sure, you can walk into a store now and lay down your $70 and get an eighth of weed and walk out and not be arrested, and whoop-de-doo, this is great compared to what it used to be, but it ain't what it's supposed to be, it ain't what it should be, and nobody should be supporting that system. And I got other friends that say, well, we needed to approve that so we can move in increments towards what's right. I don't disagree that all things happen in increments, and maybe this is a step in the right direction and da-da-da. But part of that step in the right direction is not supporting it. You know? That's right.
Same as it's always been for us elected youth that showed up, support we wanted legalization, but we don't.
Oh, I'm not a fool. I understand that there's forces on both sides that don't want legalization. You know, there's growers and dealers and people that are quite happy with the risk that is resulting in the profits. You know, it's a risk-benefit thing. The benefits are pretty good, the bling bling and all the rest of it. So
I don't know. I do see a lot of that out there. People bling blinging their profits around.
no, I know you're not. And I know, you know, our suppliers here are.
Our suppliers here.
Yeah, for us, absolutely. Yeah. And you still make a good living. I want you to make a good living. Sal and I are going to make a good living. Everybody should do that. That's fine. I'm not against profits. You need to be comfortable in life to be able to do good work. You can't be, you know, wondering where your next meal is coming from or whether you can pay your rent or anything like that. People need to have those things removed from their worry list so they can worry about making the world a better place and helping with the people that really need help here. So, you know, I'm not against profits. I'm not against people making money. I'm in favor of that. I think that's part of that has to be part of the equation for it to work, for sure.
Make money is one thing.
Well, they're prohibition prices. They're prices that you charge because you very well might meet a lawyer down the road who's going to cost you a bundle of money. Jeremy Martin's out like $800,000, not all on lawyers. So that was the world in prohibition. Anybody risky, you know, daring enough to be able to go and help people get access were risking their own liberty, their own possessions, and all the rest of it. And we still are, but not the government stores aren't. You know, the government stores aren't.
But when you look at it, the government stores aren't providing me.
Well, not for medical reasons. But we shouldn't have prohibition. We shouldn't have that risk on people that just want to supply weed. I mean, if there was no potential lawyer bill down the road, if you didn't have to put your money or some money away under rocks in places because they're going to take your house away from you and your cars and your bank accounts, all of that kind of stuff, if that wasn't part of the equation, then the average gray market grower wouldn't have to worry about the police kicking in their doors, wouldn't have to worry about losing their homes or needing a lawyer, and then the prices could come down, and they could still make a great living.
Well, there's no reason for prices.
Yeah, just prohibition. You know, I know some people are spending their extra dollars that they make to make really beautiful cannabis and have, you know, gourmet cannabis and the best of everything, the best lighting and the best fertilizers and the best trimmers and packaging, and I know that there's some more expense on cannabis than on broccoli and on, you know, carrots, and that's all fine, but not to the extent where we're at with, you know, 1,000-fold increase from what other farmers are making for cultivatable crops that they're bringing to market here. And I like I say, I want everybody to make a good living. The corruption, the ruination of lives, the wasted money to prop up these people that are on the gray market and wanting to make more money than they need to, and these people that are in the legal market that are wanting to make more money than they need to. The artificial price that's being propped up by those two groups of liars and thieves or whatever you want to call them, I mean, that's hurting masses of people in between.
Those two are the real gangsters.
Yeah, that's the LPs, they want to keep, you know, the enforcement, you know, of their protection and their protection of their racket. The gangsters, they want to keep, you know, being able to do what they're doing and then get $12 a gram, you know, for weed that they're mass producing. Meanwhile, the people that care about going, the people that just want to make a decent living, the people that they want a world where they just feel free and where things are reasonable, and that's the masses of people. They're harmed by this in substantial ways, like overtaxed, scared by the gangster side of things, having their own families torn apart in many cases, not just being able to live their lives the way they want. It just breaks my heart to know that we have to have so much corruption. And after all we've learned, after all we've been through as people, you know, to get us to 2020, with all the different movements to recognize the inequalities of things, to recognize the corruption and the abuses of government, with all that we've been through, here we are in 2020, they're still trying to propagate the lie that cannabis is dangerous, that it needs to be strictly regulated, that our children are at risk, that only the government should be supplying cannabis through strict regulations, and the prices are necessary because we got to all of these lies and things that are going on. It's messing up our world. We need to have a reasonable world, because I go insane. You went insane. Everybody around me has to go insane because the world is so messed up. We can't just live our lives and raise our families and enjoy our vacations and love life, because we got to be concerned about how corrupt things are and how bad things are with the corporate influence on our public servants. And all of us are a little bit insane about this, and we're not living the lives we would have otherwise. I wouldn't be here doing this if things were reasonable on this planet. I wouldn't have a truth, hope, and change show that instead of me going out and just enjoying life as a senior like myself should be doing. Why I hate using that term. Yeah. But I've lived 60 plus years. I should be able to settle down, relax, and enjoy my life a little bit. But I'm driven, I'm obsessed, because it's so messed up here still. I can't stand it. I can't stand, the whole idea that the government would put in regulations that would restrict what people need and want for, all for money. I can't stand it. So here I am. Well, it's what they shouldn't be doing. And we've been fighting this. I was going to mention this earlier on with you and I talking about this. This has been going on for a very long time. Throughout the history of mankind's interaction with mankind, there have been leaders, and there have been rulers, and there have been dictators and queens and kings and tyrants and all these other things and manifestations of trying to have mankind live with mankind. And it's been quite the struggle, and we've actually come a long way. That even with what you and I inherited this generation from the last, in the way of a corrupt group of public servants, in a country that doesn't recognize our freedoms and rights as it should, still we're ways ahead of where other countries are and where other peoples have been throughout history. And so, we are still making progress, but it takes a continued effort. It takes guys like you that aren't going to just be deterred by bad laws, and you're going to break them to help people. It takes my staff here of volunteers and people that have decided that this is valuable to them, and they know that they're risking things. They know that this is something that could get shut down and that is still stigmatized in our society. It takes a whole whack of all of us, good people, caring about what's going on in the world, not just going crazy about it, but doing something about it. That's when you can ease the craziness a little bit. Is when you think you're doing something. And so we all got to still work on this, and it's not over. Let's not surrender to the corporations and government tyranny. Let's continue to fight for rights that are ours, that are real, that are truth. The truth is that we're people that deserve to be respected by other. When mankind deals with mankind, it should be respectful to each other. That's a right that all of us have until we lose it by violating it. But we should be treated with respect. And if we're not hurting anybody, we should be left alone. If we're in need, we should be helped. If we have projects that would better the society that we're in, our public servants should be facilitating that. They should be helping us to do that. And that's a world that we can keep working towards, because we don't have it. It's obvious we're not there yet. So,
no one. It's going to be a long time before we ever are.
Like you said, you and I probably don't get to see the fruits, the real results. But let's hand it off to a generation that cares.
Well, and that's the other side of the coin is we have to put that into our generation. The generation has to be able to accept that and bring it in.
Yeah,
and that's where it comes back to my old saying, if you don't give it away, you don't ever get it back.
True.
So, meaning that whatever I have, knowledge that I have been freely given, I have to be able to give it to somebody else. And that other person that can take that.
responsible to do, which is care about our fellow human being, care about these next generations that come. If we do that the way that we do it, you be you and I be me and everybody be's who they are, then we will inspire that next generation. We will pave a path for them. We will, find solutions to the journey and how to make it. So it's all really, really important. And that's what I'm saying. I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't so important that we still stay diligent about these things. And maybe one day we'll have a world, if we all work hard, that we will be happy to hand over to the next generation. That will have the right checks and balances in it, and people that aren't traumatized by oppression, by government and corporations and other groups, and we can have a better world. That's what I'm hoping for. All we can do is try, or not. It's up to you. Try or not.
One foot in front of
I
the
say it's
other.
better to try.
One foot in front of the other.
That's how I do it.
That's the only
Wake up in the morning, see how much of yesterday I remember and what means things
I
to
can
me.
give a
and keep
fuck
going.
about yesterday, because yesterday's gone.
Well, there's things that I like to bring with me from the day before.
Well, the only thing I bring with me is my smoke, so I don't know. Fuck.
I bring some lessons because I'm still learning. I'm in school.
I'll be
I'm still
learning every day, but
Yeah.
but I don't need to worry about yesterday.
But you know what? When you wake up in the morning, apparently you lose about 80% of what you thought was important from the day before. We shed that. The 20% hopefully is even more important than the 80% that we shed. It's probably important that we shed a bunch of
Well,
stuff.
they say we
Some
only
of it
learn
more.
from our mistakes, right?
Well, that's the trick. Learn from your mistakes. If you learn from your mistakes, then
Then you're doing it right.
Sure.
If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're.
I get a little laugh sometimes because I tell us that we figure out how to do things here. I encourage the people that are helping me to make these things.
Right down here.
If you don't think it's right, but you're not 100% sure, try it and see it.
Yeah.
And even if you're 100% sure it won't work, try it anyway. Because there's things that you're going to find out that you really didn't think about before that. It's all valuable. It's all good. Like you say, if you do it right, mistakes are great. Problems are just opportunities. Problems are things that you can solve and better yourself for. And once you've solved the problem, hey, you add another arrow in your
Life
sheet.
is full of problems.
And as you get older and older, you solve more and more of them, and then eventually people will even take your advice.
Maybe. I don't know that. Maybe.
Who knows?
They're like assholes already.
Everybody's got one.
Everybody's got
and they're worth about as much. Well, Robert, I'm sorry to have kept you so long. You're just a very interesting fellow. I know you've been uncomfortable in the seat there, and I'm going to let you get back in your chair. And thank you so much for everything. Is there anything that we didn't get to? Anything you want to add? Nope. I'm really happy that I could give you the opportunity because you're just a wonderful guy.
They don't have things that glue.
He pushes himself on us here to make sure that he can donate and help people because that's what he wants to do is help people. And we're so glad that you do that. And I don't really ask anybody for donations in particular. I usually don't tap anybody on the shoulder. I let people just donate as they want and participate as they want, and that way you get people that really do want. That's right. And you have been one of those people. I've never asked you for anything, and yet you continually show up with bags of the best medicine, and all of that has kept this project going. And this project eventually, even though we're still facing obstacles and hurdles, will eventually pave the way for low barrier access to cannabis and free, and that includes free for people.
Eventually,
It's got to. They can't deny this to every community across Canada.
This isn't the only community in Canada that has a cannabis substitution program.
There are others. A big shout out to the west, to the East Coast.
Nova Scotia,
I don't do that enough, man. I'll tell you, I don't know if they watch the show here, but man, I should. And I actually said I'm going to spend a whole show talking about what they're doing
Those
back
guys
east.
out there, they go out on the street and sit on the street and hand it out.
Yeah.
And they go to their houses and take it to their homes to those people.
In worse weather than ours.
Yeah, damn straight.
Yeah.
You know,
And I really
shout out to them guys.
I believe that they're going to be able to do what we're doing. That they're going to get a storefront as well. But I'm told that the governments are not as malleable as ours are here. And we'll see about that. But I'll tell you, government's got to get out of the way of this. This is something every community needs. The Cannabis Substitution Project back east needs to be supported by government and allowed to continue to help people. So
I'd like
Shout
to
out
take
to
a
them.
road trip back there sometime.
I've been there. I stayed with Chris. Chris Backer is a good friend of mine that put me up or put up with me. That's for sure. during the time that I stayed with him there on the Freedom Tour. He's a wonderful guy. He's a giver too. You know, he's suffered some serious loss in his life and some serious setbacks due to a huge fire and some other things. And he just loves to give back. He understands the power of that.
Isn't that what it's about? Like we talked about so many times.
Maybe I'll dedicate one of my rants to talking about the power of giving. And you know, you're a very lucky person if you can give to people. Those that are really lucky if you understand that that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Tommy Tom, I don't know if you're watching this show. I know you spoke to me or spoke just before me at the recent AGM of the Craft Farmers thing. And I know that you and Cheech are now going to have your own little venture of dispensaries. I would really, really encourage you to be champions of medical access and affordable access. Keep your pot cheap. Have really good pot. Let's give back to the people. Cannabis has given you and Cheech an awfully good life, and now is your opportunity to really give back. I'm really hoping that you're not going to join the rest of these corporate people that are cashing in on the ability to capitalize on an artificially high marketplace for cannabis. I'm really hoping that you guys will be champions of the cause of the healing of this situation and of this culture and this healing wave that's going to take over and go right across this country and the United States and right around the world, where we finally can get cannabis to people at prices that is affordable for people and allow it to do the good that it can do. So I'm really hoping that those two fine gentlemen who've had an amazing career of first showing just how much cannabis you can consume and survive it, and now just how smart and articulate and on it and high functioning you can be, you know, after doing shitloads of cannabis and other drugs for all these times. You know, they're amazing icons in our community for having shown both of those things. I'm really hoping that they're going to work with us in getting the cost of cannabis down to being affordable and bring really good ganja to the people that need it and don't want to be forced into protection rackets for high-priced weed that will continue prohibition and the harm being done by prohibition for decades to come if we can't get these prices down. So I hope somebody shows them this video. I love Tommy and I love Cheech. You know, I want them to be soldiers with us in this war against our people and our community and the plant that we love and the plant that is now so artificially expensive because of all of those nasty things that they've done to us. Let's free the weed, let's free the people and get this back on the right track of affordable, good quality cannabis and community cannabis shops all across this world of ours, and let's displace all of these opioids, the street drugs, the alcohol, the pharmaceuticals, synthetics, the other things that we could be using a natural healing plant for instead of what's being foisted upon us. Anyway, there's a long but thanks a lot, Robert. Thank you. And we'll talk more down the road, I'm sure, and really look forward to seeing you here at the shop. You're, of course, not just welcome, but really, really valued every time you come here. Thank you so much again. All right, so there's not a lot going on, I don't think, in the form of cannabis events, although that's not true, sort of, but there's sort of cannabis events that are online now instead of being in person, which is kind of weird. But still getting medicine to the people and still getting medicine judged, which is extremely important that we have cannabis cups. That carbon cups that still ongoing.
I saw some judges' kits and they're
Yeah.
not as stocked as they've ever been. So
Nice. It's
people
important.
still want cups.
Yeah, people still want to judge, and it's really important that people judge because that's the way that the medical users get to find out what the best products are and what they should be looking for to help them, and also help those companies and groups that are providing the best medicine and doing it in a way that looks after the needs of the people and that becomes evident when these things are judged. So cannabis cups are important. It was much cooler when we could meet together as a kind of family and party and all the rest of it, but you know, you can do that wherever you are, I guess, and I guess you can do some of that sort of online, and this is the world that we're in right now. So yeah, some cannabis events are still going on. Let us know at the THC show what events are happening if you want us to promote them, and we'll see if we can do that for you. If we agree that it's a good event, then we'll promote it for sure. Meanwhile, at Pot TV, we have you know, the regular shows on every week. We've got to thank Cannabis Culture, Pot TV, my producer Neil, for giving us the time and all the efforts that they put into helping this show happen. That's really important. That's every Tuesday. We go live at 4 p.m. and usually follow the Cannabis Substitution Program, Healing Wave Dispensary. The last one's in. Just before us on Mondays, we've got the 420 Lifestyle Show with Carly Marley and Lisa Gal. More fun than you can have on any other Pot TV show, I would think. On Wednesdays, it's From Under the Influence with marijuana man Greg Williams, the longest running operator of the Pot TV show, and it's going back like 20-some years. And Greg has got an amazing mind and an amazing way of looking at things around the world. His show, let's get growing. How's it growing? Okay, gotta remember that. You guys gotta remember that. How's it growing? We need to know how it's growing. And Johnny B on Fridays lets you know how it's growing, right from seed to end result. And in between Greg and Johnny B there, of course, is Morning Glory with BC Bud Gal. At some random time in the morning, you can wake and bake and have a TV session on Thursday as well. So that's kind of it for us. We're still you know, struggling along here, fighting the obstacles being put up by government, trying to figure out how to make it work for ordinary people to help ordinary people with their issues. Yeah, government shouldn't be in the way of this at all. So we'll keep you posted on how that's going as we move forward. Look forward to everything else going on. Thanks to everybody that helps us. Thanks to everybody that supports us. Thanks to everybody just for watching the show, for being you, for doing your part. And while you're out there trying to change the world as best you can, always remember, have as much fun as you can.